Thank you.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Ambassador Joe Keshi will be joining us to talk about the Israel-Iran, is it conflict or war now, and its impact on global peace, geopolitics, and how it affects you and I. Join us in just a moment. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. And from the home front, let's travel a bit to the international scene now. Over the weekend, the world woke up to news of nuclear missiles being fired back and forth between Iran and Israel. It's like one war too many. We're still contending with the Russia-Ukraine war, the Israel-Hamas war, and this adds up to it. What does this mean for geopolitical peace, as Jeffrey has said, and in fact also for international trade as well when you consider oil? Let's have this conversation as Ambassador Joe Keshi joins us now, a former ambassador to Nigeria in the Netherlands, and he's served in different capacities as well in different missions of the world. Ambassador Joe Keshi, thank you so much for joining us on the program and for coming through early and for holding on. We're very appreciative. Ambassador, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed, we can hear you. Brilliant. And so the Israeli government claims that, you know, the strike, the initial strike was preventive to address the inevitable threat of Iran's continuing building of nuclear war. How justifiable was its initial strike, and how much really does this war have to do with Iran's reported support for Hamas in the ongoing Israel-Hamas war in Gaza?
First, let me just correct that I was not a Nigerian ambassador to the Netherlands. I served in Netherlands at some point in my career. With respect to your question, you know, this is a very unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in the world today. And for me, my take is that the whole world is silently watching and doing practically nothing, you know, as this war escalates. This is not a preventive strike. For many years, the Israeli government under Prime Minister Netanyahu, you know, number one, in order to prolong his reign as a prime minister, as the longest serving prime minister in Israel, in order to protect in order to ensure his political career in Israel, he has put his ambition over the total security of not just Israel, but also of the whole you know, Middle East. Israel was not in any way under threat of nuclear attack by Iran. Iran has not even completed its, facilities. Iran is not even developing, you know, according to AI, I mean, the atomic energy. Yes, it has the capacity to probably, you know, enrich uranium today up to 60%. But by the way, let's understand that under President Obama, a deal was made in which the Iranians were obeying the rules of that agreement. It was Donald Trump and the Israelis during Donald Trump's first term that tore up the agreement that has brought us to where we are today. Number two, Israel is a nuclear power. And for goodness sake, why would another power insist that another country cannot have a nuclear program? Where were the Americans when the Indians and the Pakistanis were developing their nuclear arsenals? Why did nobody say anything? Why did nobody intervene? Why is it that Egypt and the United States do not want another country in the Middle East to grow in terms of military strength? And I think that's the question that, that should bother each and every one of us in this part of the world. As for whether this would become a global war, I do not think so. But I think somewhere along the line, it will probably disrupt international trade, because you have to, the Strait of Hormuz, or whatever they call it, ships have to pass through that, strait. And if Iran decides to block its that part of the sea, it will certainly affect global trade. Beyond that, I think we're just going to watch these countries destroy themselves, or somebody or one of them gives up at some point, which unfortunately will probably be Iran.
Ambassador, we can't deny the fact that this reeks of perhaps America. Israel serves is of strategic importance, so America's foreign policy in that sense, which you're way familiar than I do. I remember when Donald Trump visited the Gulf nation, one of the things he said was that, well, Iran, the table is open to you, but America will never allow you build any nuclear weapon. It will not happen. It was very, very emphatic. So people are saying...
Look, who the hell is America to insist that they have to decide for every country of the world what to do? If they did, look, why is nobody talking about the Israeli nuclear power? You cannot say one country can have a nuclear power in a region, and you say another country cannot have nuclear power. No. And there is no evidence, according to the latest report, that Iran is close to becoming a nuclear power. Yes, they can reach uranium up to 60% as of today. But bear in mind that when the deal with Obama was negotiated, their capacity to do that was just 3%. Donald Trump and Israel tore up that agreement. They tore up that agreement. If they wanted peace, if Israel wanted peace, and not just power for itself and for itself alone, they had two options. Go back to the negotiating table and compel Iran to sign a new peace agreement. And by the way, I hope you know that they were supposed to meet, they were given 60 days by President Trump. And they were going to the meeting when Israel attacked when it became 61 days. Look at the deception. This is pre-planned. Israel, simply with the support of America, does not want any powerful nation or any nation that it believes will threaten its sovereignty. But look, my position has always been, Israel has been fighting for almost 75 years. Israel should learn to make and live in peace with its neighbors.
Yeah, Ambassador, in fact, while they are busy saying, perhaps, maybe that's how unfair the world is, as we see now, because I'm sure China is just watching, Russia is just watching, North Korea is just watching somewhere lurking around. But where I was going to with my question is to the effect that when you look at what is playing out, so could it be their justification is to the effect that Iran's leadership backs the likes of Hamas, backs the likes of Hezbollah, backs the likes of the Hutu rebels. So allowing them to build some level of capability is going to jeopardize global peace because they are seen as one of the biggest sponsors of terrorism around the world. Is that a justifiable narrative, or is just...
Look, the situation that the Middle East finds itself today, America and Israel cannot, in all honesty, claim to be innocent. Saddam Hussein was killed for the same reason that he had nuclear power or was building or had weapons of mass destruction. It turned out that at the end of the day, the poor guy was killed for nothing. And so what happened in Iraq, what happened in Syria, again, Syria was this. Look, we all know the truth about this. Everything that has gone wrong or that is happening in the Middle East is just for one purpose, for the preservation of the Jewish state of Israel. Pure and simple. Nobody is against the right of Israel to exist. But look, if you have been at war for 75 years, it means that anybody in Israel who is 75 years today has just lived in perpetual war situation. Yes, they have developed, they've become an advanced country, and the rest of it, they probably would have been greater if not for, the series of wars. Of course, if you do not learn to live in peace with your neighbors, what do you expect from your neighbors? If perpetually you believe that only you have the right to exist, and your neighbors you must suppress, you must brutally destroy one way or the other. Look, anybody with a heart of humanity will be sad to see what has happened in Gaza. And I hear Donald Trump, returning back to Washington and warning Iranians to quit Tehran. I mean, come on, this is unfair. The fact that you're a powerful nation does not mean other nations shouldn't exist. Does not give you the right to dictate to others how they should live or how they should not live. Look, let's face the reality. This is you said it. This is unjust. It's unfair. The war is unprovoked because the Iranians were still ready to negotiate.
But Ambassador Keshi, when you consider, the fact that Israel is surrounded by aggressors, when you consider the role of Lebanon in the Israel-Gaza war, the role of even Yemen in recent times, and the perpetual enmity of Iran towards Israel, isn't the responsibility of peace in the Middle East that of all the countries, either it's on the Jewish side or it's on the Arab side?
Madam, you are actually making the point I've been making on the other side. Look, after the last Israel-Egyptian war, the Egyptians made peace on their own, decided, and the president of Egypt at that time, Sadat, went to visited Israel and they made peace. Unfortunately for that, he was assassinated. Another time, the Israelis and the Palestinians, they signed a peace agreement. The Israeli prime minister was assassinated for signing a peace agreement, So the point is very clear. And I keep repeating myself. If you have hostile neighbors, you are the most powerful of all these neighbors. In his book, I think it was Things Fall Apart, Chinua Achebe did say that there comes a time in which a powerful man has to learn to behave, something like that, like the weak person in the equation. Where we are today, everybody in this world knows, and the Arabs know, that none of them can challenge the power of Israel. So it's not beholding on Israel with its power to make peace with its neighbors. But Israel just wants to conquer and remain the only power in that part of the world. And I ask you again, Israel is a nuclear power. And why is Israel opposed to another power? And why is the world completely silent on Israel's nuclear capabilities? But they are concerned about another capability. And they tell you that, oh, that country is dangerous. Who defines a country's, dangerous status? Who does that? Is it Israel? No. It's not. Are you going to go around the world destroying every country that you consider? And by the way, the destruction of some of these Arab countries, Iraq, Syria, led to some of the huge problems of migration that Europe and the Americans experienced, in the last couple of years. And so this is the time for some of the leaders of these countries to be rational, to sit down and think out of the box.
All right.
How do we make and guarantee global peace?
All right.
They are almost rendering the United Nations useless in this instance, because they are listening to nobody but to themselves and carrying out an unjust behavior.
All right, Ambassador.
Against innocent.
Yes. My apologies. As we begin to wind down, there may be a bigger trouble ahead of us, especially it has to do with trade. When you look at that 33-kilometer Strait of Hormuz that borders between the Gulf of Oman and the Persian Gulf into the Arabian Sea. And now, you know how Iran is just around that corner, and then UAE is somewhere here, and then Oman is somewhere here. UN has actually said, look, this is an international strait. Nobody has the exclusive right of transit. But we know when things escalate to this point, it's going to affect all of us. But for us, it's a windfall in terms of government revenue, although it's going to be hiking our PMS prices. So when you look at a global trade in this sense, who and who should we be calling to the table to avoid further escalation? Because nobody's going to be watching. There are people getting killed.
I mentioned it before that if the Iranians decide to block that strait, it now means that, look, global trade will continue, but the costs will be very high because they now will have to go down to the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa somewhere, in order to, the ships, in order to continue, maintaining global trade. But the cost to the people all over the world will probably be high. Yes, we can rejoice in this part of the world. All oil-producing countries can be happy that they're making some money. But look, when everything calms down, we'll probably be back to where we were a few days ago.
Well, we hope that, there's peace and, all parties concerned will come to a table of understanding. And when we, gather to talk about this again, we'll be talking about progress rather than, the casualty on both sides, which, according to reports, is increasing. We must thank you very much, Ambassador Joe Keshi, for coming through on this one. And thank you for the clarification on your designation. Thank you so much, Ambassador Keshi.
Thank you for having me, and good morning.
Yes, sir. And from here, we go to trends. What are you saying about some of the things? Okay, we'll take some of those trends tomorrow on the program.
Yeah, but let's see. I've seen some messages from some emails coming in from some people. You may not have it there, but let me read it to you. This is coming from somebody who says, the name is FTS, says, on the issue of killings in Benue State, I would like to suggest a way of making the entrance of these attackers into villages difficult by digging a 3 feet by 5 feet by 3 feet deep around the perimeter of these villages in the bush. Doing this will make penetrating these villages almost impossible. It will slow them down at least and allow locals and military to engage these bandits before they escape. This is coming from Folarin Da Silva from the United States of America. Sam Omorui says the comments from some of our government officials are very perplexing and bewildering. How do you expect normal citizens to live peacefully with marauding terrorists who are bloodthirsty, kill and massacre children? The passing of Bok will not help us. We must tackle and disarm terrorists first before we can have a genuine window for lasting peace in the Middle East area of Nigeria. And this one is coming from, I hope I'm correct with this, yes. This is coming from Mpa Ngeke. Said if the CDS knows and alleges sabotage by its men, the military, then the ball is all in his court. Recall, the victims all over had accused the military and police of direct involvement and aiding and abetting. The truth is that the arms used by the attackers are that of the military and police. That's what you're alleging. Again, soldiers have complained of one theater commander and all of the allegations you read. Well, so those are some of the thoughts. Please do not stop, bringing them in as much as possible. We have our WhatsApp number. We're going to roll it on your screen. We have the email address also. You can send us messages even after the show about anything or some of the things we talked about on the show. Also, you can hashtag us CTV Morning Brief on our social media handle X, so we can always amplify your thoughts, your voice, your suggestions, and your comments right here on the program. But that's it on the program for today. The president will be out to Benue tomorrow. We hope that this visit will bring some level of succor, will bring some level of empathy, will bring some level of reprieve. And not just a visit, but there will be action so that our people, these innocent poor people in the villages, don't get killed by these cowards and these terrorists or whoever they are in that sense on all sides. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma.
And whether it's a succor or a reprieve, we hope that it comes in an enduring manner for the people in Benue State and indeed the entire stretch of the North Central and the Northeast. Thank you for your time and company on the program. Don't forget, Sunrise Daily is up next. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Bukola Kota. Bye for now.